So I would like to ask you, Sandra, if you can introduce yourself, give your background a little bit, and same for you, Tomas.
Thank you, Peter. So yes, I am Sandra. I'm product manager at the Spaceflow, and I have a very strong background in real estate with experience, especially in retail, corporate real estate, and most lately in flex space and flex living.
Okay, hi, I'm Tomas. I'm VP Engineering at Spaceflow, and my background is technical. I worked for small startups to big corporates with a lot of employees and big tech teams.
Thanks. So let's talk about why this topic is even important. I think our own experience at Spaceflow is that we got sometimes rejected by customers, which is natural. But the reasons is that they say they will build the app on their own. And we have seen quite a few cases where it actually got wrong. Because maintaining, or even initial cost, but also maintaining the app costs a lot of money in the long term. On paper, that can look cheap, but if you look at indirect costs like cloud, hiring, employees, losing time on maintenance, bugs, customer care, there are a lot of costs involved. Even one person, a chief of operations for a real estate company, told us that he himself spends 20% of his own time just dealing with the bugs, which is outrageous for obviously a CEO person. Also, indirect costs can come up at a later stage, bug solving, customizing the app, trying to make it work. And we witnessed with one of the companies that even to actually build it and launch it took the company 2.5 years, which is obviously a time that real estate companies cannot afford. And with some companies, we encountered this so-called paradox of the sunk cost fallacy. So they say they wished that they opted for a tenant experience company with a readily available solution, but they cannot because they already spent too much time and money on building their own and running it. So they now need to make it work. But obviously also that's not the ideal scenario. So that's just a background on why we even introduced this topic as a webinar. So let's dive into it. What does it take to build a tenant app? There are so many areas. Maybe we can start with how do you actually identify specific needs? Can you talk about that, Sandra?
Yes, especially, of course. When you are building a tenant experience, if you are as a landlord, traditional landlord, then who you will listen to it, and this is a part of the user research that is such important. Then, if you just listen to finance, then you will end with an ERP product. If you listen to the facility management team, you will end with a facility management tool, and with legal, you will find a very lease administration tool. So that's very important to listen to all the parts of the company. Yes, of course, but who's listening to the tenants, the potential users itself from the app, right? So that's why it's so important to invest in a proper user research to identify the target audience. You are a commercial landlord. It's a really office building that you want to roll out. It's more co-living. It's more student housing. It's a huge portfolio with a different kind of assets. Then you really have to go through all of these because all the needs are different. Every completely asset will need a different approach, and the users and the occupiers of the building will need additional features, a completely different approach, and also. This is your assets and your portfolio. It's in a specific location or it's across multiple countries. Then you also have to take into account a different cultural approach. It's not the same. The a small example, but it's not the same how the common areas are managed in, for example, in Mediterranean areas where I'm from Spain. It's a completely different approach that you have to have from something from the Nordics, for example, because our cultures are completely different when it comes to manage common areas. So all this kind of
Can you give an example of how that is different? It sounds interesting.
Yeah, for example, okay, we are completely much more louder, or times are completely different. And also when it comes, for example, common laundries, for our culture, it's you always own your own laundry, and you have a common area with your the common laundry, which is very typical in some countries. Make sure that something's going to happen to some laundry and some misuse of it. So this kind of approach, it means it's possible to have a more neutral platform for across all countries. There are some cultural approaches that also have to take into account also more trainings and onboarding that's going to be different in the big portfolios in multiple countries. So that's the importance of, and sometimes it's not taking into so much consideration the user research and the investigation, because it requires time, it requires a lot of interviews, a lot of work. And that's something that we will do it on your own. We already have a team. And at the end, you only listen to facility management team or to finance or legal, because they really want to manage more the lease administration process better. Yes, it's going to be a perfect tool for operations, but you will miss the part in the tenant approach, and that's the key of tenant experience platform.
Mm-hmm. And so once let's say you have identified the needs on the tenant side and also on your management side, let's imagine it a bit, right? What is the next step? Is it how do you hire and onboard staff for the team? What are the approaches?
Then I think that's more approach of also which is the tech so you will decide to do, right? And then I think Tomas is the best indicate to respond.
Yeah, here I would say you need to decide if you wanna build your own app or get with application like Spaceflow. This topic we will discuss later on as well. And now I will go the path that you decided to build your own app, right? Then what do you do next? What's on our plate? Okay, you are company owning buildings and properties. You don't know anything about tech. Then first thing you need to do to find good CTO or chief architect who will help you in this area. And you will rely on this guy, and he will need to do his own research. And what do you want to do then? Is it build your own app in-house, hire the people, hire the developers, product managers, UX designers, or outsource this to a development agency? This is like a huge decision which will impact you in the future. Because if you outsource it, it might look super easy, but in the end of the day, it will be a little bit more expensive because you pay also the agency fee, right? But the kickstart is faster. Then you need to decide what you prefer, the money over the time to market. Then if you decide to start hiring your own team, what is the first role? Will you go for first the architect, and then what is the technical stack? Which technology will you use? This will impact your hiring process as well, and how many people you need. There is a lot of things to take into account from the technical perspective, and you really need to hire your chief architect or CTO who is experienced in this field and can do these decisions. And you need to bring this person to your business talks. You need to tell him what are your expectations from the product perspective, from the onboarding perspective. What is your short-term and long-term goal?
Mm-hmm. And I guess this approach is anyway relevant for corporate or enterprise world rather than a property owner that have maybe 5 buildings or even a co-living that have only one space, right? So only even the hiring and onboarding will take months for the company.
Exactly. And if you are small and you have, let's say, just, you said it, like co-living, one building, why would you build the app? What is the benefit? What you expect from it? Do you really think that people will install the app just to see one information, or you want to provide a complex platform when the people can actually get benefits from? That's also the decision, and it will impact the cost.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that path that many, like even outside of the, not outside of the property world, but let's say like a shopping mall building their own apps, and then people not using it because there is no real value in it.
Exactly.
Building, that's about hiring, onboarding, building the app. What are the areas in the system maintenance? What about the UX? What about the keeping research live? Maybe integrate some solutions. What is your take on this, Sandra?
When it comes to UI, UX, and research, if you are deciding to create your own, how do you want to deal with this? Because normally you outsource this part, or you hire and you keep the team. So it's going to be also either you have to keep updating everything and paying additional fees to the agency, or hire a team, and especially a team that it has to be dedicated to UI and UX trends and real estate trends, because you have to be taking into account both, right? The path, the speed of change of technology the past 3 years is not the same that it was 10 years ago. Every single month, every single semester, we have new things, new coming things not for real estate, that we also it's changing very fastly. It's also technology itself. You have to be taking into account what's the trends it's going to be, what's going to some UX resources that you have to incorporate in your app because it's coming populated. For example, a very small example is the Swift right, Swift left. Everyone knows what it means right now. It's accepting or rejecting. But this simple movement, this simple expression that is even being now incorporated in our vocabulary comes from one single app that disrupted the industry, another complete industry, completely different from real estate, right? It was a dating app. So now a lot of other apps include this swipe right, swipe left. So you also have to be taken into account and always be looking to what is going on outside real estate, and then also into real estate. And also it's part of proper UI and UX research and experience. It's also the behavioral and psychological part. You also have to take into account, maybe if you have a designer, let's use our internal designer, marketing team can manage lots of things. Yeah, great. I'm sure it's a great professional, but it's not the same as you designing for an app, because there are maybe your corporate brand looks great. It's a great corporate brand and it works in paper, it works in your app and your web. But there are some visual specs that you also have to take into account. There's a lot of behavioral approach against that you have to take into account. There's a lot of users that have cognitive disabilities, visual disabilities, and you have to take into account with color palettes, this kind of things that you have to be a specific designer for that. And or either you hire someone and assume the cost of having an in-house UX designer for that, or always paying fees to keep everything updated.
Yeah, I would a little comment on that. Like usually, if you have one app for 2, 3, 5 years, people get bored. They want the new things. There are new trends in designs. They want the shiny thing. You need to evolve your app as well. Does not work the way that you develop the app and you have it for 10 years. That's not how it works. You need to evolve it. You need to bring the new features. You need to bring the confetti when user achieves something.
Yeah, nice. And so that's the UX and like keeping up with the trends. Looking at the tech perspective or the maintenance, what is the actual cost to run a tenant app? And that can be a number of areas, but cloud infrastructure I have in mind.
Yep. Okay. It's not just the cloud. There is like a lot of resources you need to invest to run the app. And I will talk about the bigger implementation for one building. It's totally different. I will talk about like hundreds of buildings or tens of buildings where, yes, you mentioned it right, Peter, the cloud infrastructure, your application backend needs to run somewhere. Then that's usually the biggest cost, other than people. People are your biggest cost. And then second is the cloud infrastructure, the servers where the application is live. But as I mentioned previously, it's also your app is evolving. When the app is evolving and moving, there is, imagine an engine in car, right? There is a lot of moving parts and it breaks sometime. Then the same is with applications. There is nothing like bugless app. You still need to invest into fixing the bugs, and that is, let's say, 20 to 30% of developer times. Usually, you need to invest into keeping the app alive, because you want the users to be happy, right? You need to set up the support, because what the user will do when the app is misbehaving, they will raise your ticket and your support needs to go and communicate with the client, and the response needs to be fast. The user will not wait a week for support response, like, because he wants his laundry done, right? Then this is additional hidden cost, like the support, which needs to be connected to the technical team, because the technical team will then solve the issue. Either it's with the app itself, or it might be some issue with the third-party integration. It might not even be in your side. You need to communicate with third-party you integrated. It's not always the app fault. And the last thing, and I would say for many companies, a lot of expenses goes into security in this field, right? You are handling personal identifiable data. You need to be sure they are secure. That means you need to check the compliance ticks like ISO, SOC, GDPR, all these things. You need to go through regular compliance checks, penetration tests. This is usually on like yearly basis. You need to train your staff how to behave with this data, stuff like that. This is a huge expense on the company plate.
Plus, keeping up with the requirements on your own stuff, like how does the app behaves, what are the new features required, and so on. How should real estate companies deal with the new features and how to communicate them with the new tenants? Sandra, what do you think?
This is one of the topics that normally is underestimated, because dealing with new requests, new features they have to add to the app, because there's some changes in methodology or new ideas that you have come up to. Also, it's how you communicate these features, how you train your users and your own company staff. This means resources. This means some communication time, trainings, etc. And you have to have dedicated time to do it. So it's also one important thing. It's indirect cost normally that is underestimated, and it's very important when it comes to success and feeling the app useful and usable and configurable in the future, also useful in the future. So that's also a very important topic to take into mind. It's not about designing the product, developing the product, rolling out, and maintaining the technical part. It's also what's going to be the next 5 years, 3 years. It's how you will support the new features, how you will train the new features, how you will communicate. It's also, you have to integrate the tools, you have to create the resource guides, you have to create the emails. It's a lot of time that we also invest on this.
Yeah. Okay, there seems to be a lot on the plate that the companies need to deal with. Before I ask another question, just a heads up for our audience that you can submit your own questions or comments in the comment section on LinkedIn. So feel free to share insights and we'll answer them at the end of the call. So we have covered the areas, and now what are the potential benefits of building the app on your own or cooperating with the agency, an app agency, rather than cooperating with a company like Spaceflow that is specialized in the field of tenant experience. Can you talk about? I think this is a question for both. So whoever wants to start.
Ladies first.
Okay, we'll start then. Yeah, maybe it's the feeling of owning the product. If you to say it put it in some words, and it's also that making sure it's a very tailor-made solution for me. And maybe, yeah, we can create something small and rolling out feature by feature, and we just don't need all the integrations with our RP or facility management the systems that we are already working, and it's not a big portfolio. So then, yeah, I can create my own app. I will not say just pure only a tenant experience. It's just more only an app and starting small and then grow and build as my portfolio grows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From my perspective as well is like ownership of the data, right? I would like to highlight that you feel that you need to own all the data, but even if you go with company like Spaceflow, the clients are the data owners. It's not a Spaceflow. Then with Spaceflow as a processor and uses all of its security measures and privacy posture to protect those data. Okay, looks like I lost you.
No. I think also one of the benefits is that you own the process on your side besides owning the product as well. But if you build your own stuff, it's obviously easier to manage rather than talk to a different company. So in what use cases you think it makes sense for a company to build their own app rather than choosing an existing solution like Spaceflow? Sandra?
I only see the scenario not that really wanting to invest so much money and time and resources and building your own app. It's really because you really want that, just an app for a simple app for my few buildings. And I have very clear that it's just small features. Perhaps it's just a residential asset. I just want tenants be able to book common areas, and maybe it's just one common area or just tennis court or swimming pool, for example. And that's it. It's very simple. I don't have more aspirations. I don't want to apply to another certifications as WireScore smart buildings. By the way, Spaceflow is one of the first accredited solutions. And it's it. It's only this. It's just pure tenant app. I will just say then, yes, it might have sense because we are not this only. We are tenant experience. We provide so much more features. We also provide the admin console, which is for administration, also the digital operations, the smart building part, digital management system. Yeah, we have a lot of features that can be a lot overwhelming depending on your needs. But if I have a various portfolio, my targeted audience, I'm not going for the high-end targeting tenants in the market. It might, I still think it's be a pain to maintain and a pain to onboard all tenants to a one single app. But maybe keep it if you really want just a very simple feature, just one simple tenant app, yes. You are missing all the things of the tenant experience, yes.
From my perspective, from the technology perspective, is that you can always build something by your own, right? And it feels good if you build it, always. But it's time to market as well, right? If you want to build your own app, it will take you a lot of time. And if it's complicated app, it's at least like a year or something, maybe even more, because you need to hire the people. Hiring process, it's not a month. Then look at it from the perspective of other apps you already have, right? That means you already have some ERP system, something like that, and you need to integrate. And you already usually have these systems and you want to integrate everything together. That means there is one more requirement to your app to be, let's call it API driven. With company like Spaceflow, you already have the API. And the only pain point or the only challenge is to connect those two apps together. And here we are again talking about the data. The data are shared between these apps seamlessly. You have your data available in all of your systems. And let's say your main view is in your ERP where you are managing the tenants and all this kind of stuff. And you just simply set up the connection to a company, to platform like Spaceflow, and the users are automatically provisioned. If you will build everything by your own, you need to build also all of these integrations. If you go with company like Spaceflow, usually it covers, let's say, 70% of the use cases because Spaceflow works with so many tenants and so many buildings and technologies and already develop these integrations. You can just go, plug them to your system, little modify them to your needs, and be live in no time compared to building your own integrations. If, for example, company like Spaceflow does not have integration to the system you are not paying to build the whole app. You can make a deal. Okay, hey Spaceflow, let's develop this integration together. I will pay something, you will pay something, whatever, make some kind of deal. And your only struggle is this one integration, not the whole app. 17 people or the landlords were using just Facebook groups and they were happy with it. And why should you use this tenant experience platform, right? For me, it's one of the things these days is ESG, right, Sandra? Like get compliant with ESG and get it fast. You don't have 5 years to, do it. And okay, I want to be compliant with ESG. I will pick the provider like Spaceflow and I will roll it up in like a month or so. We will just deal with the integration, how we want the app to act, and the MVP might be live real quick. Do you have something to add to the ESG and this topic, Sandra?
Yeah, part of also, we say to also, just to keep in mind that we say 2018, 2017 as it was yesterday, but in fact we are talking about 5 years ago, which it's already a lot has changed in this 5 years ago, right? And also a lot of technology has been put into IoT and the buildings themselves, and it's all the smart metering and sensors, and also I'm thinking it should be also, we have seen that all these ESG policies, they have been really, all real estate landlords have been starting to put it into action. It's no longer a greenwashing flag or label in the website. It's really taken to action. There's a lot of actions ongoing right now in the market. So ESG is now an important thing. And also, if you want to be part of it and you're building and your tenant and you want to engage your tenants, because some of the ESG goals, you need the action of the tenants too. It's not also what you do as a landlord or how you build or how you manage your resources. It's you also need to engage tenants and you need to engage them through the app you are already having it. And that means integration with sensors, that means new UI, new modules. And we have now a new, completely new module ready already and also even we going a step further, that's a gamification to engage all app users to ESG. But developing that, it takes a lot of time and a lot of integrations. And we have been able to do it because we are a tenant experience platform that we are already talking to a lot of landlords in the market. We already have a lot ongoing live projects already and have all these integrations in place. Starting from scratch, it will take you time to market a lot. And maybe you can even not reach your ESG goals that you have by corporate governance in the company.
And I need to say for myself, as tech geek, let's say, I'm super happy that I don't need to install 5 different apps to control my home and see my consumption, stuff like that. I install on Spaceflow and I can play, okay, how much electricity I saved today, and stuff like that. And what's the quality of the air in my house, when, let's say, the baby's sleeping there, stuff like that. I'm geeky about this, and that's super cool for me to have it in one place like Spaceflow and not to go through 5 different applications for every single thing.
Exactly. And one of the things we have seen it, and some other of these prospects that rejected in the past, that they build their own app for booking common services. I always say the common spaces because it's the most common case. But then they added ACS systems, some digital access, and maybe this digital access, they already had their own app, and for cost matters, they didn't want to integrate this SDK. So now the tenant has to download your own app and the AC system. Now, because I did some refurbishment and I have some EOT, then it's another company with the cameras, the doors, the kitchen, the windows. Now the user, the tenant, has to download 3 apps. So you are building, and you think as a head of digital, you are being very innovative, but what you are doing is putting more pressure on the user to download 3-4 apps, and at the end of the day, they only will use the ACS system because it's the one that they need to open the door.
Then you are back to the question. If you are building your own app, you need to keep up with all these integrations and all these technologies you are integrating to a building. And if you have hundreds of buildings and different countries, it's tens of integrations. If you use something like Spaceflow, again, let's say 50-70% of the cases, it's already solved. Or, the use case is there. It's just, connected to the right technology, and that's it. Like, the speed to market and the speed to value for the customer is, I believe, much, much better. Not talking about cost. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have Peter?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Glad to be back. So I think we can wrap it up. We're on time. So with the QA, one question from the audience. Let's say the landlords are convinced that they should not build their own app. What should they be careful when it comes to product and technical strength of the app that is outsourced? I think it can be a question for both, since it's product and tech.
Tomas?
Okay, then I will start. From my perspective, it's a support of the app. Does the provider have a support? Again, I said it. If you have broken laundry, you want response fast. You don't want response in a week. Then the support needs to be there, and that's critical part. And this is also for the tenant managers, right? For the people managing the buildings. If something's broken or they need help in setting up meeting rooms, so on and so forth, the company like Spaceflow needs to provide the support and help the users, not just the end users, but also the B2B. And yep. And second thing, if you are like big provider, let's say you have hundreds or thousands of houses, or then you need to think about the scalability of the platform, right? You don't want, because it's kind of easy to onboard 10 or 50 buildings. That's easy, that everyone can do. But can the provider of choice onboard 500 or 1,000 or more of the buildings? That would be my concern, because not every solution is scalable.
From product side, I would say that take into account the product itself, that it fits your requirements. And one thing that's very important also is that if it's modular. Because maybe right now, as it is my portfolio, maybe even in this building, I need these modules in this feature, but in my corporate real estate portfolio, I need this and this, and for my residential and senior living, I need another one. So they have to be very flexible between us. And in time, maybe I change my mind, or because society also is evolving, and my seniors now are more digital tech savvy, I can engage and work at more smart metering and more managed parking, etc. So you have to have this flexibility, and it's not a rigid product for you, because you might be paying for something that is not needed. And also ask the roadmap and ask the product team how you how they can listen to you and your needs and your requirements in the future, and how it's going to be incorporated in the roadmap. Because it's very important, and especially we always take into account the product team and all new clients. We have regular quarterly meetings, and we always are transparent with roadmaps or listen to all requirements, make sure that the product that we are building, it's not only because I have crazy ideas and my team have crazy ideas, it's because we listen to our client and always try and test even to pilot with them. So that's very important also, that you are listened to and not just, our Microsoft that we always download the suite and like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think what is important too, and Tomas said, it's very easy to roll out 10 buildings is okay. A technical part, yes, but the human part, you also have to take into consideration that outsourced company has a very strong customer success management team, because it's a very key part of rolling out and making sure first that the users are using it, because it's a proper introduction to them and a proper training to the company itself. So the employees, your space managers or your portfolio managers, asset managers, funds, sometimes are not the best tech savvy approach people. They are on board on the platform. They have trainings. They have one single point of contact in their native language. They can support them, engage through. Even it's 5 buildings, technical point of view is very easy to roll out 5 buildings, but people has to be involved. There's a human touch on it, and the company you outsource the tenant experience, you have to make sure that they also have this human approach.
Mm-hmm. I think that you wrap it up nicely, actually. But if there is one thing that you think listeners should remember from today's call, what would it be? What is the one main thing or main outcome?
Okay, from my point of view, again, I'm technical, then I would say do your research and make sure you know what you need and what are your expectations long term and short term, and then do the decision. Sandra?
I will say more holistic answer. I think it's we are talking about software, but it's software for humans. So you have to take into account the human part on the research, why you want it, who will use it, who will use it in time, how this is going to be a lot of the trends, and also one it's rolling out and one it's on place, how you take care of the users. That's the important thing, because you can build the Ferrari of the software with the best technology, but people have to use it at the end of the day.
Great. So thank you for being great guests today. The recording will be available from this webinar on both LinkedIn and shortly on YouTube. So those who haven't a chance to watch today will have, and also those who did will have a chance to review it. Feel free to have a comment on the LinkedIn post. If you have some additional questions, you can answer them later. And we have another webinar coming up in March 16 on office trends, office design with an experienced architect. So looking forward to that. And if you want to have more news from Spaceflow on tenant experience at PropTech, feel free to subscribe to our newsletter. So thank you again to our guests. Thank you to our audience.
Okay, thanks you for having me. Have a nice day.
Thank you.